So it's about a few weeks away from Cinco De Mayo. So if you want to make guacamole for your party, take a look at this video. See if something you can knock out. Maybe you can practice once before then. But as you'll see, get your avocados early. But for Cinco de Mayo, I'm sure there'll be a million avocados out there. So that may get you a little more time to make it, because the avocados might be already pre-ripened. But we're going to show you how it's done, and enjoy. So if you want to make guacamole, you got to have avocados. So these three I bought today, they're on sale. Hass avocados, 99 cents, which is a good price, but they're rock hard. I went through the whole bin, trying to find something softer. But if you haven't dealt with avocados, they got to be pretty soft to the touch to be able to really get the most out of them. Hard, they just have no flavor and they don't mash up. They just don't do what we need to do. So we put it in a bag with a banana. I've used an apple, and it's got to stay room temperature up on your counter, and then you just got to let them sit. And so it's Monday. I bet you Thursday at the earliest these will be able to be used, and I've had them go even longer. Where if you got something for next weekend, I would say don't buy them later than Tuesday, if they're hard, and then you hopefully they'll be ready in time. If they're getting too ripe, you can put them in the refrigerator, and that could slow them down a little bit. But if they're not ripe, you're dead in the water. You're not going to make any guac. So there you go. So it's now Thursday on these avocados. Remember, I put them in on Monday. So let's see what the progress is here after pretty much 4 days. All right, so this one, it's already brown, but it's still hardish. That wouldn't really mash up too nice. And we're getting some color, but I'd want them softer than that to make guac. So these, I don't know if they'll be ready tomorrow. I bet you by Saturday. So when you're looking to make, you got to buy avocados a week ahead of time almost, or else scour the store and see if you can find one that are partially ripe or pretty close to ripe if you need it soon. So that's the story with avocados. So it's now Friday, and here's these avocados after they've been in the bag. Finally, I would say they're getting to the point of being usable. So it took from Monday till Friday, and even this, I bet you these could go even another day if you didn't have need it today, where they finally get used. We see they've turned color, they're browner. I can put dents in them with my thumb. And the banana is still usable too. You can actually use that, eat the banana. That's also getting a little done. So here's what we're going to need for this. We're going to use 3 avocados this time. I've made it often with 2. 3 be a little more. 4 is fine. Lime. Got half of a good sized onion. I'm using a plum tomato or a Roma tomato. I like those because they're not as wet as other tomatoes. Some cilantro. And then we're putting in this hot sauce, which is optional. If you don't like hot sauce, don't use it. But we use this habanero sauce. It's green, doesn't change the color of the guac. So those are what we're going to use as far as ingredients. So here's getting the pit out of the avocado. You've seen this on other YouTube channels. Run the knife around. Open it up. And then, if you're not comfortable at this point, use something else. Use a spoon to dig it out. But if you put the knife in and twist it. Out it comes. It's really slippery though, so be careful pulling it off. So that's how we'll do all the avocados. And then to get the avocado out of the skin, we're just going to use a spoon, scoop it out, and look at that. So if it comes out clean like this and your pit comes out easy, that means your avocado is pretty much ready. You'll find if it's hard to get it out of the skin, it is not ripe enough. So we're going to do all 3 avocados like that and get them prepped. So here's the 3 avocados, and even one was a little harder than I liked. You know, it's usable. 2 were pretty good. One had a little hardness to it, so it's going to be a little tougher to mash. But, you know, that's what I'm saying. If you planning on making this, you got to get your avocados way ahead of time, or else find real ripe ones, because then it's not gonna work for you. So the next part is going to be some lime juice. So on this, 3 avocados, 2 you can use half a lime, 3 I'm going to use a little more, but I've used too much lime and it kind of made it a little sour taste. So when we put the lime in before we mash it, that helps get some liquid in there, helps it mash up. You hear the dog barking in the background. It's impossible to be quiet. So that's the juice of this lime in there. Get it mashed. Squoze in as much as possible. And then you can mash these with a fork. I use an old school potato masher and just work these over so they're a nice consistency, a nice taste. You can chop it up, the avocado, a little more. You want to get it smaller chunks. A little chunkiness is not a problem. So yeah. Go. So now we're going to cut the onion, and I've had someone tell me that they've had guacamole where the onion is way too thick, way too prevalent, so I try to really chop it as finely as possible so it really gets distributed throughout. Alright, so nicely finely chopped. A bunch of cilantro. For people that don't like cilantro, I mean, you can leave it out, but I think it's really an integral part of getting this in there is the cilantro. So we're gonna cut that real fine. You can do with that, just kind of ball it up. That'll help you get it chopped up as fine as possible. Now that tomato that I mentioned, and again I'm going to use a plum tomato because it's just not as wet, doesn't put as much juice in. Use any tomato you like. I find this was what works best. In some guacamoles you don't have tomato at all, but I like tomato in mine, and that's what gives it a nice little texture in there. So I really try to dice this up pretty good. And finally, the last 2 ingredients, and these are to taste, is going to be some salt. And I like using this regular table salt. It seems to get throughout it better. I've tried kosher salt. It doesn't work as well for me, I think. You're gonna need a fair amount, so you know, put some and try it. Though I can't give you an exact amount. You know, it varies for how many avocados you're using, how big of a batch. It's a pretty big batch. 3 avocados is a pretty big batch. We usually make 2 just for me and Mrs. LJ. But and then the hot sauce. You know, usually you could also put in the jalapeno, which I forgot to get jalapeno. But we use this green hot sauce, and that's the taste. And you can leave it out totally, or you can put it. We like to have a little sting to it, so we'll add a fair amount. So those 2 items are going in, and then all right, and there you have it. Got yourself some nice little bowl of guacamole. This is good with chips, or you like to put it on toast, maybe with another slice of tomato. In the summertime, especially when you have some fresh tomatoes, you can, you know, I've had it on a wrap with chicken. You can put it in whatever, you know, don't just get it for chips. So that's guacamole. And speaking of chips, these calidad chips that we get at ShopRite, I don't know if they're available around the country or just locally, but we've found that these are the best tortilla chips, and they're the cheapest, and they're the one that we always buy. You can sometimes get these for like $1.50 a bag when they're on sale. So that's the chips I recommend too to use with the guacamole.